This is a production of the Woodring College of Education at Western Washington University, made possible by a grant from the American Federation of Teachers Innovation Fund and support from the National Science Foundation DRK-12 grant number 119678. Any opinions, findings, and conclusions or recommendations expressed in this material are those of the authors and do not necessarily reflect the views of the National Science Foundation.
In Module 1, you will learn about what to talk about in an effective mentoring conversation with a novice teacher after he or she teaches a lesson. Module 1, What to talk about in a mentoring conversation. Let me guess. You're here because you want to learn more about mentoring. A mentor can play an important role in the success of a novice teacher. While all teachers can benefit from discussions with each other, novice teachers are at a stage in their development or teaching career where a mentor can help them focus on what's important and reassure them when they feel overwhelmed. So, what is a mentor?
Nope, that's a Minotaur.
A mentor is a person who provides support and feedback to a novice teacher through observations and conversations. A mentor is a thinking partner to help novice teachers reflect on students' thinking and learning. So, you're a thinking partner with the novice teacher. You might observe the novice teacher teaching and help him or her reflect on a lesson. There are so many things you could talk about in a mentoring conversation. Standards, lesson planning, student thinking and learning, classroom management, student behavior, time, curriculum, assessments, and teaching strategies. All of these things are important, but what's most important to talk about? Student thinking and learning is the foundation of a good mentoring conversation, and these conversations need to clearly establish the extent to which students developed their understanding of the learning target of the lesson. Now that we have established that students' understanding of the learning target of a lesson is the focus of our mentoring conversations, what can we use as evidence to guide our discussion? There are a lot of possibilities. You can use student work, students' conversations, observations of students, and assessments. By focusing on this evidence, it answers the question, how do you know if students got what you hoped they would out of the lesson? Focus the mentoring conversation first and foremost on student thinking and learning through the use of evidence rather than initially focusing on the novice teacher's instruction. This creates a safe space to discuss the impacts of the instructional strategies on students' understanding. For example, instead of saying, "The discussion prompt you asked was confusing," try to rephrase this to, "Students appeared confused as they responded to the prompt." This creates a space where you and the novice teacher are authentic thinking partners, where you each share your observations and evidence of student understanding to help move students' thinking forward. Once you've established the extent to which students developed their understanding of the learning target for the lesson, then you and the novice teacher can discuss what helped or hindered students' understanding of the learning target. But ultimately, you're going to have to decide what were the most important factors that impacted students' thinking and learning. When working with a novice teacher, what you choose to talk about in a mentoring conversation conveys the message that that is what is most important to reflect on about a lesson. Mentoring conversations that focus on observations of students' learning and their learning artifacts are the most productive way to help a novice teacher reflect and learn from their instruction. Focus primarily on the factors that were the most important influences on students' thinking and learning. Okay, So your mentoring conversation with a novice teacher is almost over. You first identified the extent to which students developed their understanding of the learning target for the lesson and your evidence of their thinking and learning. Then, you discussed a couple of important aspects of the lesson that contributed to or inhibited student learning. Now, green means go. This is where you and the novice teacher collaboratively discuss, as thinking partners, the next instructional steps to further student learning with respect to the learning target for the lesson. Altogether, you have the stoplight model for reflection, which you can use to reflect on a lesson you've observed and use as a framework to guide a mentoring conversation with the novice teacher. So, now you know what's important to talk about in a mentoring conversation, and you learned about the stoplight model for reflection. Coming up, we'll share some strategies about how to talk about student thinking and learning in ways that bring the novice teacher into the conversation as a genuine thinking partner.